It's a really good mic. It's a very nice mic.
It is a really good mic, yeah.
That's a great way to start this. That's an amazing way to start this.
Yeah, I know.
So this is the first chance.
We're bored.
This is our first attempt at a podcast, and we're already having one of the two members leave. No, okay. I'm about to say, were you already jumping ship on this idea?
Yeah, I'm leaving. It's over. We're done. I hate this already.
So we don't have sponsors like other people, so we don't have to go through a bunch of Raid Shadow Legend sponsored announcements.
They don't sponsor us. We don't say their names.
But this is our first attempt at a podcast. I figured we could just talk about whatever we want and all. Well, in the background, Jacob here plays
Blue Tower Defense.
Which one?
6.
You just clicked on it. You can't remember the name of it.
Shut up. 6.
Yeah, 6. So one thing I figured, one little talk note that I figured we could bring up pretty interestingly was, it's a new decade. It's 2020.
And we're all about to get drafted for the war.
Yeah, that is true. We are. I don't know if in the future when we listen, or if anyone listens to this, if World War III will either already have been waged, or if it will have fizzled out and not actually been a thing.
Well,
but
honestly, it was one of two ways. Honestly, meme culture is both of them. Like, I genuinely believe that the power of the internet is strong enough to either completely fizzle it out
or invoke it.
So,
the internet will either be our saviors or our demise. Which, of course, this is perfectly fine for me because I was already planning on enlisting in August, so even before this broke out, so this doesn't affect my life choices at all.
I'm already a part of it.
Yeah.
And the way I explain it is, I don't really care that much.
I kind of brought you into it. I halfway played recruiter to you. You were already thinking about doing it, and I just gave you the final push of, hey, you should do it. I'll do it with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I found pictures of that, like, a couple weeks ago.
Of what?
Like, it was me standing in front of that train. You remember, like, how the train passed? And I was like, I want a picture of that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I found video and pictures of that.
Oh, wow. But one thing I was going to bring up was it's a new decade. What would you say was the best video game of the decade? Like, overall quality, what was the best game of the decade?
That's a rough one.
That is a tough one.
I don't know. I haven't been playing a lot of video games.
Over the course of the decade?
Yeah, I've played a lot of video games.
Oh, totally. Totally. I don't even have to roll insight on that bullshit.
Listen here.
Okay, well, how about this? How about...
Damn, I don't even know, honestly.
Two categories. I'll narrow down to 2 categories. What would you say is the best multiplayer game? Like, competitive multiplayer. And what would you say is the best single-player RPG game? Because those are the 2 major genres of the decade.
Multiplayer is gonna be kind of tough. You saying like purely competitive?
Yeah, like in the sense of it's you against other players. Would you say is probably the best competitive video game of the decade?
Well, in the grand scheme of things, I don't really play a lot of games. Personally.
Oh yeah, this is all like this
personally,
is definitely personally.
Apex was really up there for me. Because, like, I kind of got slightly into the genre of, the
Battle Royale genre.
Yeah.
Which, at the point of, which I'm surprised Apex did as well as it did, because by the time it came around, the Battle Royale genre was already starting to get stale.
Well, I mean, it combined all the best qualities. And, I mean, yeah, Fortnite, blah, blah, blah. But...
the PUBG Fortnite wars.
Honestly, the community... Fortnite wouldn't have been as bad if it wasn't for the fact that every 12-year-old on the planet's like, oh my god, I want to be a god at Fortnite.
Crams it down every situation, or every conversation's throat.
Like, I went to Carrie's family reunion, and some of her cousins were they're around that age, and all of them, every single one of them.
That's all they talk
You
about.
play Fortnite? They're sitting there on their phones. Like, you play Fortnite? Yeah, I'm playing Fortnite right now. And I'm like, you're why it sucks. You're why I hate it.
Now, I will say, as far as our personal experiences, you, me, and Davian sit down and put plenty of time into PUBG
Oh, yeah.
when we were still in school.
That is up there.
Granted.
And I personally think Modern Warfare, like the new one,
Yeah,
it
was really good. I'm not gonna lie.
it brought back the good.
Here's the thing.
It did it right for.
The new Modern Warfare is really interesting to me because it handles like Call of Duty Ghost, as far as like its graphics and everything, how everything looks, but its gameplay is reminiscent of Modern Warfare 3.
I just think it did really well.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just like, that's why I think it did so well was because it took two older style Call of Duties and kind of combined
Ghost
them.
was one I threw out. I literally
Really?
threw out my car window on the way to Talon one day.
Are you serious?
Like way back when it first came out. Like this game was fresh, and I was like, guys,
I really liked Ghost.
and just threw it out my
I
window.
really liked Ghost.
I did not like Ghost, and Modern Warfare 3 I never played.
Okay.
I couldn't really tell you.
Me personally, as far as multiplayer, I'd say the best single multiplayer of this decade, culture-wise, amongst people that play games a lot, I'd honestly say Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh shit! Yeah, no, hold on.
Because
Yeah,
as far as the competitive scene, all right, in the competitive scene, Rainbow Six
I'm not
Siege.
gonna lie. I forgot that game exists. Hold on, I take my answer back. Yeah, it would go Apex, it'd go Siege, then Apex for me.
Because as far as the competitive scene, I think I had. Wow, you just got your ass beat.
Shush.
I've never seen you get beat at Balloon Tower Defense before.
I'm playing hard on a challenge. Leave me alone.
But yeah, no. As far as the competitive scene, I kept up with Rainbow Six Siege, the competitive scene. I played ranked a lot, and I tried to, tried to like be a decent rank. It grew immensely in size. Like I remember when I first started playing, I thought this game was gonna die. Like I thought after a couple of months.
Oh yeah, no, it just kept ramping up.
Yeah.
Also, Overwatch.
Yes, Overwatch it's a close tie between the two.
I'd say
I'd say Siege irks out above it.
I'd say Siege, then Overwatch, then Apex, just because
Yes.
Overwatch and Siege are still kind of relevant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying Apex died out, but it didn't stick as hard as those two.
I mean, honestly, I think it's already died out. From what I can tell, I think Apex has ran its course.
I mean, it not as bad as PUBG did,
PUBG did have a really big crash out of nowhere.
but
I don't
that
know.
was also kind of like the
the
start.
the dying of the battle royale genre.
The dying, that's where it started. That's where, personally for me, it's
Right.
like, hey, everybody, this is PUBG, and it's like, oh, Fortnite, and then Apex,
Fortnite,
and then all those other small games.
Now, as far as single player, me personally, I would have to say Skyrim.
That is a tough one for me because, okay, we're saying that. Okay,
Here's the thing. When I create this category, when I'm talking about this category, I'm talking about single player RPGs. So Dark Souls couldn't count because Dark Souls 3, all the Dark Souls in general had multiplayer. Full on single player. Nothing, no multiplayer elements. It's just a full on single player. Me personally would be Skyrim. The amount of time I sunk into Skyrim, that came out when I was 12 years old, and I'm almost 21 now.
well, I mean, obviously Skyrim in a sense, but like I feel like that's the obvious answer.
Well, just because it's obvious doesn't mean it's not right.
Well, yeah, but
just for saying something else for the sake of being different isn't exactly correct. Okay, now how about this? I'll invoke another genre. The single-player horror genre.
oof, definitely. Fucking Outlast, like.
Outlast.
I'm trying to think. Resident Evil, the Biohazard. That was
Here's one
that
that
was actually really good.
Amnesia. I think personally, Amnesia made a big difference as far as the single player horror genre of the decade.
Well, I think that's because it got so much publicity from Pubes.
Well, yeah, first it started with Pubes, and then
Pubes?
Pubes.
You said Pubes.
It started with PewDiePie, and then a bunch of other YouTubers did it, and then, but even after that, Amnesia also inspired a lot of spin-off games. Like, Amnesia really started the rise of single-player horror games in the 2010s. Like, it really kickstarted that genre back up again. What is that?
I didn't know this was a thing. Anyway.
But, yeah, no, for me personally, I would have to say the best the best single-player horror game of the decade, I would have to say probably Amnesia: The Darkest Sins. Okay, here's another one. Best co-op multiplayer game. Like, best multiplayer game where it's centered around co-op.
I don't know, it's a hard one, because I didn't really play a whole lot of just, like,
Co-op.
and if I did, it was more of, like, just a first person.
I'd have to say, Borderlands 2, probably.
Borderlands 2? Yeah,
That did it, like...
I would put a lot of time in that, honestly, back in the day. Diablo,
but honestly, as far as popularity, I feel like Borderlands 2 is more popular than Diablo. And the fact that if you want to be honest, Borderlands 2 specifically kind of inspired the creation of Destiny. Cause like that sci-fi looter shooter high that everyone experienced in Borderlands 2, I feel like fueled the creation of Destiny.
I mean,
Cause like
maybe I never heard anything like that, but
I know. Again, this is all personal. Like, none of this is. We're not trying to speak for the majority here, but as far as personal experience, I got this feeling of Destiny's goal was to try to have Halo level storytelling, but with Borderlands 2 style gameplay, where it's all about the loot, it's all about the classes, it's all about working, playing with your friends.
God, my feelings on Destiny are weird, because, like, I feel like they had a shot and blew it.
Because
like they had
Disney.
people. Disney Disney owns everything.
That could be a part of the conversation we have later. But Destiny, Destiny 2, I think, did significantly better than Destiny 1.
They fixed things, but then they really messed up, and somehow let it just. I don't know, something they did just let it die out, and it was really disappointing.
I think the multiplayer, the competitive, versus multiplayer, of Destiny 1 was better than Destiny 2, but I think the PvE, the co-op against the computer, the looter shooter aspect was done better in Destiny 2. Because in Destiny 2, it seemed not as hard for you to really get the stuff that you're trying to set out and get. A lot of things that didn't have any use at all, like Glimmer. A lot of stuff that was kind of useless in Destiny 1 for PvP co-op was given use in Destiny 2. The story, the campaign of Destiny 2 is significantly more memorable than Destiny 1. I can't remember jack about the Destiny 1 campaign, like story. I can actually remember bits and pieces of the Destiny 2 campaign.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember either.
To be honest, though, you have never really struck me as a campaign story guy.
Well, it depends on what it is. Like, it's gotta have a really good story for me to like I don't even care if it's a bad game, but like if the story catches me, it's got me like Bindi, right? I wouldn't say it has the best gameplay or anything like that. But
it's very vanilla gameplay.
Something about the story, it was like,
yes, yeah,
this goes bigger than what the game is letting on, and then after you beat it, it gives you this item that's like gives you a replay. Like you replay it because when you use this item, there's hidden messages all over every level.
Yeah, you made it around 40.
I need to be around 80.
Oh.
I've been distracted and not doing what I need to be doing. But
That just goes to show how fun this is.
But no, because
For like the 8 viewers, this first video is probably gonna get.
You run around and like you run around with this like viewer thing that you look through, and it shows all these hidden messages all throughout the entirety of the game that you just ran through blind.
Right.
And it's like speculations, hundreds of theories, and all that. And it's like it gives you replayability. It makes the story even bigger.
Yeah.
And then
I will say this is basically devolved from a best of each category to just honorable mentions of everything that we think was significant as far as games. And if we're at that point, I want to bring up one thing that I think had a significant impact. Five Nights at Freddy's. Do you remember the craze that caused?
Yeah, I didn't get into it just because of the simple fact of...
Neither did I, but I will say...
After the fact, and looking back at it, I was like, wow, that did something.
You want to know the 2 people that probably got the most out of it? Game Theory, Matt Pat with Game Theory, and Markiplier. Because Matt Pat got so much out of... he got a lot of stuff out of creating theories about the story. Nice. But he got a lot of stuff out of creating theories. And Mark got a lot of out of just covering gameplay. Like his whole reaction, that whole craze that was created with PewDiePie, like we said earlier, watching YouTuber react to scary game. Markiplier fed off that, whereas Matt Pat, he got a lot out of creating theories as to what was going on with this story that Five Nights was trying to tell. So those 2 people got a lot out of that franchise. Another game that I remember got significant, became a significant thing. Like a lot of stuff came out of it. My memory's killing me here. Star Wars Battlefront 2.
I never played any of the Star Wars.
The recent one. The one that just came out. Because that game was like the breaking point of people being pissed off about loot boxes in games. Like that game was what made a lot of people go, all right, this is enough. We need to go to the Supreme Court and we need to make laws about putting gambling in games.
Well, like I said, I never played
right
the Star Wars games, which I wish I did as a kid. And
Knights of the Old Republic got a lot of praise over the years. Like Knights of the Old Republic was
heard of it.
Which I am not a hardcore Star Wars fan, albeit I know enough that I can hold a casual conversation with someone that knows more than me.
You talking about just game wise, or
like the
movie and everything?
Yeah, the whole franchise, the Star Wars universe in general.
Oh, same.
Like
I
I know enough that like if a guy that knows more than me wants to make small talk about it, I know enough that I can at least contribute to the conversation.
Well, I've seen the movies. It's just been so long, and I've watched the recent ones with Carrie and her dad, but
I will say, as far as like piece of fiction that I've gone out of my way to actually learn more about the lore of the universe because I find it legitimately interesting, Halo. That franchise I have actually because there's the animated show, like the short films that were created by the studios and everything. There was the books, like actual books were written about it. I'm not gonna lie, I really find the Halo lore fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Halo, but I was never like one of those like huge fans of it. Because I mean, yeah, it's one of those like legendary games, obviously.
Yeah, it's definitely up there.
I never really got that into it. I mean, lore-wise, the biggest thing I got into was probably Dark Souls. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, I have the memory of a goldfish, but there was a period of time where I sat at work for hours listening
to Body.
to any lore video I could find. I listened to hundreds of hours.
I only ever
lore,
really listened to body stuff. Dark Souls was a hidden gem for me. I didn't know about it
until
you guys showed me, and then I ended up playing it way more than you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because I played it here at y'all's place. I got to the first boss in Dark Souls 3. I beat it without dying, and you guys were like, "Holy crap, you beat it without dying!" I was like, "Is that hard?" I was like, "What's the deal with this game? Why are y'all so surprised I beat the first boss without dying?" And now I've played it so much to the point that I can go the deprived class where you start out with nothing but the wooden club.
Dude, I feel like you could probably just broken sword, no armor the entire game if you really, really wanted to.
I've at least done... let me put it to you this way. I have done up to the Vort of the Boreal Valley with nothing but the broken sword before.
Oh my god.
I'm not joking.
That's too much work. That's too much work, my friend.
And the odd part is, despite the fact that, I'd say that I'm pretty good at Dark Souls, but you know what I never do? Parry. I'm not a parry guy.
I've never even tried because it's like I don't see it.
I kick. I do use kicks against shields.
I don't do any of it. I'm just like I'll find my way around it.
Roll swing.
Yep.
But I will say I use kicks against people with shields because I know how to do that. That's really easy. But perfectly timing a parry in Dark Souls, oh my gosh, that's so hard.
It's not worth it.
It's so much easier just to roll till you get behind their back and then get the crit the easy way. Because landing a backstab in Dark Souls is so satisfying.
Yeah.
Because you get the invisibility frames. And while you're in that invisibility frames, you hear that loud thud of landing it. Like it makes a really high-pitched ping noise when you first hit it, and you hear the loud thud. Yeah, no, Dark Souls is definitely up there as far as, the depth of lore.
Now, did you ever play Destroy All Humans?
No, I did not. I know you have like a boner for the game.
I do.
But
no, that was one of my childhood games that just, oh my god, if they're remastering the first one, like updated graphics and everything, and oh my god, the second I saw it, I had a conniption fucking come apart.
Yeah, I remember you did. I remember you had one thing.
Podcasting right now, you faggot.
You want to join?
Actually, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, we've been podcasting.
Well,
so yeah, a small part that we just are gonna go and cut out. There was a small break, and during that break, Jacob here forgot to pause his game of Balloon Tower Defense, and he was super close to winning a challenge, but he didn't pause it, and he lost, and he had a crap ton of money. It was like 5 rounds away from winning his challenge. So the last thing we were talking about, Destroy All Humans.
Yeah, the remake.
Yeah, the remake. You were...
God!
Yeah, you were crazy about
I've played all of them. The only one I haven't beat is the second one because for some reason I can't get my hands on it. And when I had it, I was not capable of beating it. Like, my child mind was like, oh no, it's hard. But I've played the first one and beat it like 70 million times.
Alright, to slightly, not completely, but slightly alter the direction of the conversation, favorite movie of the decade? Or at least favorite movie of, each genre.
Each genre?
Yeah, you got your horrors, you got your comedies, you've got your, romances. I don't know if you watch romance movies, but...
I'll watch whatever's on. Yo, I will say one that caught me off guard was, what's a Star? No, it's not A Star Is Born.
A Fault in Our Stars?
No. Is it A Star Is Born? The one that had Lady Gaga and that other sexy actor.
Oh, I don't know.
You ever heard that song Shallow?
Yes.
It came from that movie.
Wasn't he like a country singer?
Yeah. See, essentially the premise was this. I think it's A Star Is Born. Like, essentially, it's like this famous rock star is just doing rock star things and stumbles into a bar, and just happens to see this singer who's Lady Gaga, and her without makeup and in normal clothes. But yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, and like he's like, oh man, she sings good, you know, typical like love movie stuff.
Right.
They hook up, blah blah blah, and he makes her famous, and you know he has a problem because he's a rock star with like alcohol, drugs, and all that. And they fight.
Standard rock star life.
Yeah, and like they fight, blah 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 blah. He gets really depressed, and like I wasn't expecting to get so into it like I did.
Mm-hmm.
And huge spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie or care, in the end he offs himself, right?
Oh.
And I cried. Like I wasn't expecting. I was like, what?
Why am I giving a shit about this stupid rockstar movie? What the hell?
It was a good movie. But
Um,
as far as like best movie,
well, like I said, of genres, like of
give
each
me
genre,
one in
action,
action,
like action/comedy action. I'll keep those two together.
comedy and action.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because like there are plenty of action movies
There's
that
plenty
don't,
of comedies that are like.
cause like they're comedy action/comedy/action. Do you get what I'm saying? Like action movies and also action comedies, I keep in the same category. Comedy on its own is one thing. Like comedy has its own genre, but action comedies,
Comedy can be with anything though, like rom-com, dramatic comedy.
horror comedy, which that is a legitimate genre. So I guess we'll just go off of single categories here. Just action movie.
I don't know, honestly.
I think me personally it would be Rogue One.
Really?
Yeah, Rogue One was good.
I mean, yeah. Wait, which one was that? That was the one where they all die at the end, right?
Yeah. They one by one die.
Yeah, that was messed up.
But like,
Didn't me and you go see that together?
no, you and me saw Infinity War together.
I could swear we saw a Star Wars movie together.
No,
too.
we did not see a Star Wars movie
We need to
together.
go on more movie dates, Justin.
We already went on a couple.
I think we saw like the entirety of the Infinity War except the last one.
We saw Infinity War together. Me and Sebastian went and saw the newest Star Wars together.
Yeah,
Because
that one was good.
The D&D session got canceled, so me and Sebastian were just like, yeah, hey. I was like, hey, you want to go see a movie? And Sebastian was like, yeah, sure. So we ate at Fazoli's and then went to go see it. The entire time, me and Sebastian were just making quips back and forth and like questioning stuff. Like, why didn't they just do this? Or wouldn't this happen? Or yeah.
Like, hold on. I wasn't like that sexual tension that was there. I wasn't expecting that.
Where?
I say sexual, but it wasn't sexual. But it seemed sexual.
What are you talking about?
You know, when she had to cock her head a full like 180 degrees to get under that nose.
Oh. Just to give him a kiss.
Yeah. Like, did you sense that at all?
Not really.
Me either. Like, I was like, oh, they have more of like a brother-sister type thing going on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, up there until the end, I thought they were brother and sister. Like, up there until like the half of the movie.
Yeah.
Because like I'd been watching and like they just had kind of like that bond. I was like, they're related.
Sibling rivalry.
They're somehow related.
Or yeah, something like that. Which.
But then they were like, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, there's nothing in it. Maybe space incest is different from normal incest.
I mean, look at the old Star Wars.
Oh, so that's what Jar Jar Binks is. He's a product of that.
Oh man, maybe every person in space is human, just a product of
The midichlorians like reacting to incest. Man, that would explain so many things.
Oh my god.
But anyways,
Space incest.
all right, horror.
You keep saying it and like.
Your mind just goes.
Oh, I got an idea.
Alrighty.
My feeble mind breaks.
You literally have to look up what movies came out recently and then go, oh yeah, I remember that one.
It.
It?
it.
Really?
Mainly because it has always been one of my like top favorite movies.
So
And
when
they
it-
recreated
So when
it,
they finally recreated it.
and it wasn't a bad recreation either.
Yeah, it was
Like it was,
wasn't-
they actually did it justice.
it was a successful reboot. I'm not gonna lie. As far as horror movies that actually really went up my spine and I hate, like, it legitimately put me on edge.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to find one that did that to me.
I personally have to say, Hereditary.
I mean,
But you want to know why?
huh?
Not even the paranormal scenes.
Yeah, it was.
It was the car scene with the girl.
I think that got everybody.
That messed me up.
Yo, that.
That was one you and me saw together. That was a movie you and me saw together.
Yeah, that messed everybody up, man. Like, and I personally, people for some reason never bring this scene up, but when they're in the attic and the mom's floating there and she starts cutting off her head.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god.
Okay, that didn't scare me, but that,
Well, it didn't scare me,
yeah.
but it was like, Jesus.
But that creeped me out because I don't know why, but I have this weird thing where I find people just floating creepy.
Why?
I don't know what it is, but people just lifelessly floating like sends a disturbing chill up my spine.
You know what really gets me?
You want to know what really grinds my gears? I don't know if we can make that on podcast. Oh, that gets you?
Yeah, when people, like, you can't see their eyes or mouth.
Okay, that right there. Also, I hate stuff like that where you like their limbs start to stretch and morph.
That
We might need to include
it's just
video.
stuff like that. That gets me.
Yeah, that gets me too.
Like, that creeps me
That
out.
triggers fight or flight.
I wasn't expecting that. It didn't
Yeah.
scare me, but I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting it. But yeah, no, like that. I mean, not like this stuff. Like if they have like contacts in, it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But like if there's like it's literally just a void,
Mhm.
I'm like, no, thank you.
And I've explained to you my fear of sirens. So real quick, look something up. Siren head. I found this recently, and this thing is the antithesis of my existence. It is all of my fears wrapped into one. Like
How do you spell siren?
S-I-R.
Oh, that's a T. That's no.
It's not series. It's Sci-R-I. No, not two.
said
Yeah,
R-I.
E-N. Yeah, right there, Siren Head. You just got...
Well, I typed head. Well, I didn't type it, but like I auto corrected it.
There you go, yeah.
That guy?
Yes.
Why?
Because, okay, this thing is the antithesis of everything I hate. It's long and lanky. I hate, like, things that are long and lanky and thin.
You're
It-
hiking in Algonquin Park.
Yeah, like, things that are long and lanky and, like, just stretchy. I hate those. Those creep me out. Siren noises creep me out. So this thing is just my two biggest things that creep me out combined together.
What is it? Like, where'd it come from?
It's from SCP.
The authorities hadn't got.
Yo, I like SCP.
This one I think is like supposed to be. Honestly, I can't remember which SCP this is. But yeah, point is, it's literally just. It's a giant lanky humanoid thing with two air raid sirens that make up its head, and in the air raid sirens, there's a mouth that can eat you.
Sweet hot Jesus.
Yeah, that thing. Okay, so, we went over action. We went over horror. Comedy. Did you have a favorite comedy of the decade?
You first.
I'm gonna be honest. That's a really hard genre for me because I stopped liking comedy movies later in life. Like after I became like 15, me turning 15, comedy movies didn't seem funny to me anymore. I don't know what it was, but they stopped being funny for me.
I mean, see, that's kind of like with me in horror. I mean, I love horror and I don't watch a lot, but like, I'm having a hard time finding one that literally I sit there and watch and it's like, oh my god, this is getting to me.
Right.
But I mean, I laugh at almost anything. So
Yeah, see, that is one thing. Like, I have a very... despite the fact that I have I have a very easy sense of humor. Like, it does not take a lot for me to find something funny. Despite that, there aren't a lot of movies that make me,
You know what one that surprised me?
What?
Toy Story 4.
Did not see it.
In my opinion, it is the best Toy Story. Like, they really did it with this one. Like, I was sitting there, and it hit me so hard. I was like, oh my god. Like, at the end of the movie, I was losing it because they have this character. You've seen this.
Forky, yeah.
Forky. I came up with I was sitting there, I was like, so, at the end of the movie, like, in the credits, I was like, so, in this world, you can just put anything, you can put eyes,
Give
legs,
sentience to
and you can just give it sentience. How? And at the end of the movie, watch this. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna bring up the scene. I'm gonna bring up the scene.
For those of you watching the podcast, spoilers ahead for Toy Story 4. Go ahead and pause this, and then watch Toy Story 4, and then resume this. This is totally anticipating the idea that anyone besides you and me will listen to this, which might be the case, but...
You better have it. I'm gonna be so mad if it doesn't. What?
That stuffed bear shooting lasers out of its eye.
Yeah, no, know that. Yeah, right here.
Ow. That thing looks like its existence is suffering.
It is.
You just got that slow pie. Existential. I can't talk today. Existential crisis.
I literally lost it for 20 minutes. Losing it when he said I don't know. I was like, oh my god.
None of us do. So yeah, to answer the question though, I don't have honestly a favorite. I think they're all mediocre. All comedy was mediocre this decade.
Well,
as far as movies.
Good Boys was really good.
I did not see that.
I'm trying to think. Deadpool, but that's
an action comedy.
Oh.
There was no pure comedies this decade that stood out. All the comedies were either it was comedy / something else.
Decade or year?
Decade. This has been a review of the decade.
Okay, that's a broad statement. There's a lot of good
Well,
comedies.
again, this everything we have said this entire podcast has been personal.
Hot Fuzz is great. Borat.
But
Did you see Borat?
No. But Hot Fuzz.
I feel like you would lose your mind over Borat.
Okay, Hot Fuzz didn't come out this decade though.
Fair enough.
2, it could be debated that it's an action comedy.
Well, shut up. But I feel like you would. Outside a decade, mainly because of I feel like you would enjoy Borat.
Right.
A lot. I feel like you would enjoy Borat.
The Life of Brian got me. I'm not gonna
That's
lie.
way before.
Yeah, but that's not within this. Yeah. Ironically, the older the movies are, the more they actually did.
Yeah, because now they got to be like careful about it. You know what I mean? Like,
we're a pansy ass generation.
well,
I'm not trying to be a boomer or anything, but
it's rough. I don't even think it's us. It's the parents.
which
If you
okay,
think
hold
about
on.
it, like,
how did if I'm correct, millennials are now 40, right? Like now the millennials are turning 40. I don't know if she meant to call you because she immediately. Stand by.
hold on. The 3 dots are shaking.
Oh my gosh, I hated that growing up.
The 3 dots?
Yes. Let's say
It's making my eye twitch.
ladies and gentlemen, we may have we may bring we might bring go ahead and bring a end to the podcast here. But this doesn't prevent us from doing more in the future. I'm not gonna lie, I had a lot of fun doing this. So if we do have to stop here, I want to do this a little bit more.
No, hold on. I can make this work.
Okay. We went to get a guest star via. Where are we gonna post this? Your YouTube channel, or do you want to make a SoundCloud? Where your podcast more likely to get views?
That's tough.
Real quick, we could go to Google. Google can answer our questions. There's always statistics online. We're not gonna cut this part out because we want you all to feel the genuine fact that this is the beginning of us trying something that's completely new. We have no idea what the hell we're doing. Me and him are just kind of winging it as we go.
I mean, I don't think it will go to the public, but I can have it on my phone. I can listen to us.
I feel like we can get.
I can listen to our podcast.
Real quick, go to Google Chrome. Real quick, let's just go and type. What? Yeah, right here. I'll type it while you handle the behind the scenes issues. I'm trying to think of how I'm gonna word this.
What do you want?
Where?
What are you wanting?
Where are the most where do people go the most to view podcast?
This is one of them.
Google Play?
Yeah. Google Play is only comes pre-built into almost every single phone in existence now.
Well, just because it's built in doesn't mean that's where most people go to listen to podcast.
It's one of them, especially going I listen to podcasts that are by famous people who do famous things.
All right, so this is our road to fame. We'll put the podcast on Google Play. This is our first attempt, number 1. I'm really curious how well the audio is picking up on this volume because I'm just deliberately being as quiet as I can.
I don't like the way you move the keyboard. It's ugly.
Well, I had to move it to type that.
Symmetrical. Symmetry.
All right. What genres are left? We've gone over horror. We've gone over comedy. We've gone over action. Those are really the 3 main genres. There are more genres, but I don't think either of us watch anything that doesn't fall within those 3. TV shows. What would you say is probably your favorite TV show of the decade?
That's hard because there's
some that's been internet shows will be their own category.
Internet shows?
Yeah, internet shows will be their own category.
I know yours.
Yeah.
But it's been going on longer than that, hasn't it? How long has that been going on?
That's been going on since 2003. But I will still allow it because it did carry on over into this decade. But yeah, as far as TV shows, not internet shows. Me personally, my favorite would be Chuck.
I don't know what that is.
Chuck was a show on NBC, and it was basically this random computer nerd ends up with a bunch of government secrets in his head. So spies from both the CIA and the NSA have to infiltrate his life, and they have to pretend to be either his coworkers or his girlfriends so that they can keep him safe from a bunch of people that want the government secrets that are now in his head.
I'm trying to think of things I've watched.
That show was amazing. I love Chuck.
trying to think of things I watched, but I can't. You know how we solve this problem? Okay.
You have had to resolve on
Well, shush. It works. BoJack.
BoJack.
BoJack. Definitely BoJack.
BoJack. I've never seen BoJack.
It's so good.
All right, now I'll allow internet shows. As far as the internet shows, the best one, me personally, is Rooster Teeth. Or not Rooster Teeth. That just goes
Red vs. Blue?
Yes, Red vs. Blue.
Yeah.
And if I had to choose show in general, my favorite show in general, internet or TV, it would definitely be still Red vs. Blue. Now,
I couldn't give you internet.
you're the... I don't watch anime. You're the anime guy. What would you say is probably the best anime of the decade?
Whichever side it's coming from.
Listen to? I know I do. I listen to a crap ton of podcasts whenever I'm at work.
Well, I know.
That's when I
started listening to podcasts.
We will eventually grow. So last we left off, I was asking you, because you're the person that watches it, what was the anime of the decade?
Well, you say anime of the decade, but I don't know when this was made. But I know I really liked this.
The Future Diary?
Yes. What else?
I know that's not anime, but Rick and Morty was a big thing this, because that came out this decade. That started this decade.
It was really, I mean, yeah.
It was a big thing.
It's still a big thing. It's still
really
good.
Yeah, it's still a big thing. But it's crazy to think that that also started within this decade.
They released a new episode. I'm happy about it.
But, so you don't really have a...
Have a what?
You don't have a one of the decade?
Animes?
Yeah. Because, like I said, you actually watch it. I don't.
My Little Pony.
Cory in the House, my favorite anime.
Oh, yeah. The Boondocks?
Was it?
Boondocks?
Boondocks? Did that come out? I thought that came out.
That's old as hell. I was just making a joke because I saw it.
Oh. You could have fooled me.
It's alright. It's not that hard.
With this category, it is.
I meant to fool you.
Yeah, to fool me with this, because I'm gonna trust you and take your word. Don't take advantage of this trust.
Monster Museum? I feel like you'd enjoy that one.
At this point, you're just going through them.
Yeah, no, but I actually watched this one. See, I'm on episode 6. Out of...
Jimmy Neutron, the best.
episode 6 out of 12. Adorable. A horse.
All right, we're getting off track here. What was?
Okay.
All right, so
We'll go back to the game.
all right, so we've covered games, movies, and pretty much we've covered pop culture of the decade. Now I want to cover something. Did you have any what was probably like worldwide events that you can remember of the decade that left a big impact? Like things that happened on the world stage that you significantly remember it happening.
Is a tough one for me, mainly due to the fact I like to avoid
The world news.
the world, in a sense.
Me personally,
I mean, we're on the verge of World War III, and I still don't give a shit.
well, here's the me personally. It was the shooting, the mass shooting in Las Vegas.
Really?
That was a big thing that I definitely.
Why that one though?
Because that was that was the biggest mass shooting in American history to this day. It killed the most people. And, you know, I wasn't really super vocal at all on gun control or anything like that. I really didn't care about the laws or anything. And I'm a gun nut. I love guns.
Yeah.
But after that happened, I realized that, you know, I should have more of an opinion. I should, you know, think more about, you know, stuff like that. Because that was a terrible day. That was an awful day. So I honestly think that was like one of the things that really just shook me into a state of now I actually care and give a shit about what's going on the world stage.
Yeah.
So, that and the Paris attacks. Both those things really, you know, made me start giving a lot more of a, when they happened, I kind of got into the state where I gave more of a shit as to what was happening to people and what was happening in the world stage.
Yeah.
Those are two, like, they were terrible, but it was probably because of how terrible they were that they were so memorable.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
on a lighter note,
yeah, because I was about to get. My outlook on the world is dark as hell, so I tend to stay away from that topic in a public view.
Which this is, so. On a lighter note, this decade did give us a Super Bowl where the Patriots were finally defeated. I don't know. I don't think you keep up with sports at all, because I barely keep up with sports. But the fact that the Patriots had seemed to be this long time, you know, holders of the Super Bowl, they were the champions. They couldn't be beat of football, and they got beat by the Seahawks. Or not the Seahawks. It just goes to show how much I know about football. They got beat by freaking Philly. They got beat by Philly.
I couldn't talk sports with you to save my life.
I barely speak sports at all. I only speak sports because I dabble in the language just because of the fact that my family is a lot really into sports, so that's the only reason I know anything about it. And
I've always been a play it kind of guy.
Right.
Otherwise, I couldn't care less. Also, I'm working on us a guest.
You know, guest star.
I wonder if that'll pick up.
I don't know if it will.
It might. It'd be really funny if it did.
If it did, that'd be amazing.
What buff is that giving off?
At this point, we just need to record you playing Balloon. Capture recorded footage of you playing Balloon Tower Defense.
Hey. What's that? Nothing. You're currently under my mic.
We're live.
Yeah. Hey, I wonder if it's picking you up. You want to join in?
Sure. What y'all talking about?
Well, I'm currently trying to get Justin to shut up about sports because I couldn't care less.
We can we'll go ahead and we'll backtrack since you weren't present for the beginning of the conversation. First off, we were talking about games of the decade. Since it's a new decade, we were talking about the best games of specific genres. So what would you say, Carrie, is probably, in your opinion, the best single player role playing game of the decade that came out?
Game app?
She's a phone user. She's a heavy phone user.
Okay.
Just restate what you said.
Okay, so just any single player role playing game that came out during this decade, what would you consider as the best one?
Well, to be fair, we're in the 20s. Hang on. Let me think about that for a second.
She's going through a mental library.
No, she's doing what I did. If I can hear it. It's all right. I blanked out when he asked me the question too.
Yeah, I gotta
For me, it was pretty obvious. Personally, I believe Skyrim won that award.
I'm a really big fan of the BioShock games.
The BioShocks were good. I will say.
Did you play all 3 of them?
Yes, I played all 3 of them.
Yeah, I've played the entire series multiple times.
The BioShock series was really... personally, this is going to sound weird, but Infinite was my favorite.
The second was mine.
The second was yours? I really liked Infinite. Because the... Oh, go ahead, Carrie, sorry.
I know, like, I'm reading.
Oh, okay.
It's like I had to look up RPG. Like, my mind is just blank a whole bunch of them.
Don't worry, I literally heard you doing what I was doing because we got to the movies and I forgot every movie that ever came out.
But yeah, no, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah.
I don't know what you were going to say. What were you going to say?
The BioShocks. We were going over the BioShocks. One thing that I will give credit to BioShock Infinite, it was one of the first video game endings where, as a kid...
I will say, okay, no, as, like, the game as a whole, BioShock 2.
Mm-hmm.
Infinite to this day, has my favorite ending of any video game.
That's what I was trying to get to. I was trying to get to
Yeah.
that. It had a ending that blew my mind because I didn't... Like, I knew nothing... I wasn't into, like, multiverse theory and all that stuff when I was playing, when I played that. So, like, and then, I didn't get the ending, so I had to look up videos about the ending, and it explained the multiverse theory, and I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is so cool. So, yeah, I will say BioShock Infinite had one of the best video game endings to a story to this day.
Like when I beat it, I sat there with my mouth open, like my
Yeah.
jaw dropped for like, and being a fan of the games beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, huh?
When you see all the versions of Elizabeth slowly fading away until the one is left, that piece, that scene, I was the same way. My jaw was dropping. I was just like, no. Because, like, I liked Booker DeWitt. He was the stereotypical... Granted, he was a stereotypical type of character. The gritty, man, but with a heart of gold on the inside.
Yeah.
He was...
Carrie, feel free to chime in with your game when you got it.
Yeah. By all means, feel free to interrupt us, because if you don't interrupt us, we'll tend to ramble on without end.
Bro, you're fine. I just like having noise.
But yeah, no. He was a stereotypical character, but he was a stereotypical character done really well.
Yeah.
So whenever he sacrificed himself to make sure that his alternate self that was evil never was created in the first place, I was like, damn, that's dedication. But at first I didn't understand it, because I was like, well, wait, if he just killed himself, wouldn't Elizabeth never be born? But then, that's when I had to start looking at videos explaining it. And, when I looked at the videos that explained the multiverse theory and everything, and how the reason he chose the river was because that was the split in his history that caused...
that was the
defining moment.
Well, see, that's what I was saying. Even with your campaign, you know how everybody was like, there'd be this paradox, and like if we go back and change things, there's always a defining moment.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I was defending you as well.
Right. Peek behind the veil here in the podcast. We play D&D, if you didn't pick that up from our D&D references earlier. And Saturdays, I run a campaign. We'll most likely put recordings of said campaign now on Jacob's YouTube channel. Anyways, carry on with your endorsement of me.
Fucking should. Because I wanna keep up with the game now that I'm gone.
I mean, that's fine. I'll work on it, especially now that you really want it. Even more motivation to do it. But guys, listen. I have 5+ hours of audio, just pure audio that I gotta listen to and cipher through. So bear with me.
Whatever assistance I can provide for the recordings of the Saturday campaign, since I am the DM of it, I feel partially responsible for helping you. So I will help you on editing and getting that recorded stuff.
Well, you can't necessarily help me edit, since it's just like I just gotta pick out part. But anyway, what I was saying is,
I'm actually, I'm about to join a D&D campaign. Like, I'm in a Discord with some people from fucking boot camp. There's like 10 of us, and most of them are fucking nukes. and so we're all gonna.
I misheard that. I thought she
play
said
next
nukes.
time.
She said nukes.
Oh, she said nukes?
They work on.
Oh.
I just played Fortnite.
Keep that information at a minimum.
Yeah, fair.
That's gonna be nuke.
I don't think at this
You
point
know,
now the
I
podcast
actually
can be
might have
public.
to agree with Justin.
It's just.
Like, Skyrim is pretty fucking good.
It is. It's one of the games in legendary like history that's gonna go. It's gonna go down in history as legendary. Like,
Because, like, it reinvented the role-playing single-player genre. You know, it really... that genre wasn't as popular as it is now, but thanks to Skyrim, it really brought that that genre into the spotlight.
yeah, like, and like hell, you could play that game for probably years and still start like get stuff out of it. Like from the DLC content all the way to even like obviously modding, but like that aside, like just the amount of content that's in the game. Because I know I played it for years, and even coming
Yeah,
back
same.
to it, I still find things that are like, what? When did this show up?
Yeah, that was never a thing. And we live in the digital age now where, you know, digitally adding more content to games is the complete norm. So,
You know, actually, I might change my answer. Like, okay, so I do think that Skyrim was like one of the best of the decade. Like genuinely speaking, but just from my opinion, like a game I enjoyed playing most, just because like I grew up with this series.
oh yeah,
Like Kingdom Hearts, Birth by Sleep came out in 2010, and like I personally really enjoy that game. Like I've played it over a few times.
Birth by Sleep.
the Kingdom Hearts franchise in general did make a really huge impact.
Yeah, they.
It's not all 2010s. Like some of them came out in like, the early 2000s. Like I grew up playing them. Like it was the
Right.
first game I ever played was Kingdom Hearts 1 with my mom.
That genre, that okay, I don't know what it was, but Kingdom Hearts created a combination that no one knew they wanted, but then when they got it, they were like, I love this.
Yeah.
And that was combining Disney
Disney's
with
Final Fantasy.
yeah.
Which is.
Yeah, it's like take the super bright, happy, you know, environments of Disney and clash them with one of the most depressing, you know, art styles, which was Final Fantasy.
But they did it so right.
Yeah,
Like-
it's like peanut butter and jelly. How well those two go together.
Is
I do have to say though, like some of the newest games, like I am not a big fan of Recoded or Dream Drop Distance. I haven't completed Kingdom Hearts 3.
those are also kind of just fillers. Those are also just kind of fillers that like were thrown out just to help piece together some sort of small moments that are like
they were there to stave off the starvation, but that was lasting.
yeah, essentially like they were there just to fill in the void of not having.
Kingdom Hearts 3. And
I
when,
feel like that some of those games got put in there just so that fans would have more Kingdom Hearts to play. But like they make the story so fucking complex. Like,
Well, they
have you ever just sat down and tried to like have you watched those full story videos? Like
oh yeah,
Yeah, no, I
used-
have, but
I used-
that's what I'm saying. It
crazy.
I used to think Metal Gear had the most complicated story, but then I tried to understand the plot to Kingdom Hearts. I was like, nah, this has got Metal Gear beat.
yeah, but I mean,
But then Dark Souls has Kingdom Hearts beat. As far as the complexity and depth of the
well,
lore,
that's just because you go from a semi-child's game to a dark world delving.
depicting the uselessness and like fruitlessness of existence.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really compare. Well, I mean, I guess you could compare the two, but you know what I mean. Like,
Dark Souls really does have like arguably the most depressing world.
yeah,
What I kind of wish we would have gotten was a Dark Souls game where we got to play in the Age of Fire, before everything goes to shit and everything looks post-apocalyptic, when there's actually order and, you know, a stable rule going on.
well, that's just every other RPG game then.
I know, but it would just be interesting because, like, we only ever get to read about the Ages of Fire through, you know, the item descriptions, but to actually get to walk around and experience the Age of Fire, you know, Gwendolyn's rule, That would have been so cool.
Yeah, but I don't know how they would have done that.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm not saying like I'm not telling them you should have done this.
Like,
I'm not trying to say
you're trying
that.
to figure out how they would have. I couldn't picture how they would have.
I've never really gotten into Dark Souls. I feel like I should, but it's like just watching it looks so fucking hard to play.
It's
That's what makes it almost as That's what makes it as popular as it is.
yeah. I'm
like,
about to go play it whenever I head home here in a bit.
Yeah, like not just for the story, but just the difficulty of it alone draws a lot of people in.
And Dark Souls, one thing Dark Souls also did really well, especially Dark Souls 3, was if you were willing to dedicate the time to master the gameplay style, or the style of that you want to play, any way of playing the game is a viable way to play the game. Do you want to play running around naked with just a big weapon? You can do that and be effective. Do you want to run around and only throw spells and not once touch a melee weapon? You can do that. You know, if you spend enough time to dedicate playing a certain way, you can play Dark Souls however you want to play it. It rewards players you not only getting good, as the meme goes, but also dedicating and learning how to play a specific play style. It's crazy. You are already at 80 health, and you've still got 70 rounds to go.
Look, this is alternating rounds, which means it throws random rounds at you. So I could be fighting like a hard round on like turn 1. Okay, so shut up.
What are you playing?
He's playing Balloon Tower
I'm playing
Defense.
balloons in the background. Just kind
Of
of
course
keep.
you're playing balloons.
Shut up! I love the game. It's a good game.
Well, I believe I'm gonna go ahead and head on out here. This has been really fun. I'm not gonna lie.
You gonna call it?
Yeah, I'm gonna go and call it.
I can put stuff up here.
Oh wow.
What?
Yeah, no. So
All right.
this podcast thing, I like the idea of it. I'm sure. I don't know if you honestly like it as much as I do. But I would totally be willing to legitimately dedicate time to sitting down and doing this more often.
Well, I mean, yeah. Just come over. We'll talk for a little bit. I don't care.
So
I will gladly join this any time as long as I'm not like on watch.
yeah.
Yeah.
In which I also have a weird time frame of when I could do this because I work from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Well, when my sleep schedule gets back to how it was before, I'll be up all hours of the night.
Well, glad for you all to join us here at the first episode of the podcast that we don't have a name for yet. I believe we're gonna still go ahead with our original plan and release this to the mass public and to the 8 people that are gonna end up watching this. I'm glad that you exist. Alrighty, I believe we're done. Send us off, Jacob.
Send us off.
Yeah, press that button.
What button?
That button.
The pause button?
Yes, that button.
But that'll just pause it.
Okay, then that one.
The square button?
That one.
Can you tell me what that button is?
That's the stop recording button.
Please
Is it?
leave this part in the podcast.